hate speech in media towards the representatives of Roma ethnic community. Our world is diverse, and that is the value of it. Each person may refer himself or herself to various social groups and strata according to race, skin color, nationality, ethnic group, religion, occupation, physical condition, gender, sexual orientation, etc. However, this is exactly the reason why hate speech is used against us, leading to xenophobia and discrimination. It is unacceptable when hate speech is applied in private discourse, but if it is used by creative mass media workers on media platforms which they represent, it is a violation of journalistic standards and legal norms. The aim, tasks, object, and subject of the research. The aim of the study is to clarify the organizational means of preventing discrimination on the grounds of nationality to identify linguistic forms of hate speech against Roma people, as exemplified by the headlines of the texts of online edition Zahid.net during 2020, and to clarify the possibility of its recognition by automatic technical means. The tasks of the study. The first one, to investigate the organizational basis for the protection and defense of the rights of Roma people and to trace the attitude towards them in the Ukrainian society. The second one, to summarize theoretical achievements of scholars in the issue of hate speech against the representatives of ethnic and national groups to identify its structural elements and forms of expression. The third one, to single out linguistic means of expressing hate speech resulting from belonging to the Roma community as exemplified by the relevant materials posted on the website zahid.net during 2020. And the fourth, to determine the possibilities of language assessment with the help of technical means. The object of the research is the material about the representatives of Roma people published on the website zahid.net during 2020. The subject of the research includes the foundation, forms, methods, linguistic devices of using hate speech by professional journalists in the Ukrainian media, and the possibility of technical automatic means of language assessment. Organizational organizational support for countermeasures against hate speech towards the representatives of the Roma people and the real situation in Ukraine. The European Convention on Human Rights, 1950, the European Social Charter, 1961, the Framework Convention for the Protection of National Minorities, 1995, the additional protocol to the Convention on Cybercrime, 2006, the International Convent on Civil and Political Rights, 1966, the European Convention for the Protection of Human Rights and Fundamental Freedoms, 1951, the International Covenant on Economic, Cultural and Social Rights, 1966, the UN Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman or Degrading Treatment or Punishment, the 1984, the Convention of the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, 1979, the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, the 1965, the Declaration on Racist and Racial Prohibitions, 1978, the Declaration of Principles on Tolerance, 1995, and the European Social Charter, 1996. According to the 2001 All-Ukrainian census, 47.6 thousand people admitted to being Roma. The strategy for the protection and integration of the Roma national minority into Ukrainian society until 2020 emphasizes that they still remain perhaps the most socially vulnerable national minority. The reasons are various. Low level of education, a lot of Roma people do not have any documents, high unemployment rate, nomadic lifestyle, rigid hierarchy, etc. According to the Index of Ethnic Distance, Bugard's social distance scale, from 1994 till 2010, Roma people belonged to the third level of population groups, 6 points, which indicates isolation, unwillingness to see the members of these groups as citizens of the state, and go over to the fourth group, 7 points, xenophobia as an extreme group of intolerance, occupying the second to last rating position in the ranking of 24 studied nationalities, being ahead of only Chechen ethnic group. Hate speech, theoretical aspect. In Ukrainian scientific and journalistic discourse, we come across two terms that express the concept of hate speech, speech of hatred and speech of hostility, which are synonymous with the original term. Although the stress level they express is different, because the speech of hostility contains indirect calls for violence, while the speech of hatred contains direct ones. Hate speech against the representatives of national and ethnic groups may be defined as statements, photos, or images of a negative nature towards a person, a representative of a certain national or ethnic community or a group as a whole, based on stereotypes and promoting, deepening, or supporting intolerance of the society. That is, the concept includes four elements: statements, photos or images of a negative nature, a person belonging to a certain nation or ethnic group, or the whole nation ethnic group, promoting, deepening, or supporting intolerance towards this group based on stereotypes. The following factors may be considered to be the biggest problems in hate speech against the members of national or ethnic groups. Generalization, when the wrongdoings of one person are transferred to the whole group, increasing hostility and unneighborly behavior, deepening historical inter-ethnic trauma, calling for action by non-legal means. As long as the stereotyping is focused on humor level rather than direct discrimination, it can be assumed that the impact on a person's perception of a particular social group is minimal. For example, the Americans are friendly stereotype will not negatively affect the group's perception. On the contrary, somebody may copy such behavior, but the Roma are thieves stereotype indicates that everyone needs to be careful with them. The problem of soft hate speech is insufficiently researched, but its role cannot be overestimated, as the constant reproduction of such messages forms the foundation of harsh hate speech in the society, which can provoke even physical impact on the members of a certain social group, in particular the Roma. Linguistic means of hate speech expression. To denote the phenomenon associated with inappropriate statements, researchers use a number of terms: intolerant vocabulary, language hostility, language aggression, speech aggression, lexical aggression, verbal extremism, hate speech, etc., which are mostly considered synonymous. The linguistic manipulation used by the media to trigger a negative reaction of viewers, listeners, or readers toward the group of people depicted in the story, in particular, attaching labels communist, fascist, anti-Semite, monarchist, orthodox, gypsy, the use of speech patterns that disparagingly highlight the person in question, such as you, like you, through you, generalizations, gathering of homeless people, drug addicts, and thieves, division and emphasis on the status of us or them, forming an unattractive perspective due to the mention or depiction of a group of people or its individual representatives only in negative situations. Intolerant statements ethnic senselessly outrageous expressions, mockery statements, accusations, lexical labels, stereotypic expressions. Articles about people belonging to the Roma community on the website zahid.net during 2020. All of them are written in the form of information messages by the classic type of inverted pyramid, which contains relevant and socially important information, where in the lead-in or at the beginning of the message, there is the essence of the news, and there are the answers to 6 questions: who, what, where, when, how, why. In 12 headlines, we found an indication of belonging to the given ethnic group. Therefore, 9 out of 13 materials contain criminal news, indicating the nationality of only one party involved, Roma. And the indication of nationality in this context is superfluous, so it was done to support the stereotype that all Roma are thieves, murderers, or bandits. Only in one headline there was no indication of nationality, but the text mentioned that the victim was a resident of Zakarpattia, which means one thing for the people of Ukraine. He is wrong. And in addition, the news item was included in the section about Roma people. To sum up, it may be concluded that the existing language stereotypes about Roma are present in the Ukrainian media space and are most frequently expressed through the evaluative stereotype, which is an expression of comparison, good or bad, the functioning of established phraseological units that support stereotypes about the Roma people that exist in the society. The following violations, being a sign of hate speech in the studied materials on Roma, may be singled out. Unjustified mention of nationality in the headlines and text of articles in 12 out of 13 studied. The materials about the life of the Roma people are exclusively criminal in nature. Generalization. All Roma are criminals. The choice of words and topics support a negative hostile attitude towards members of the ethnic community. Division and emphasis on the status of us and them. Passerby in Lviv, Rome. Roma Special Forces soldiers, Roma woman passerby, Mayor Roma, Roma a woman from Lviv, Roma law enforcement officials, Roma people, inhabitants, local authorities Roma, rural population Roma. Peculiar features of the technology of automated language assessment and search for inappropriate use of concepts. The current state of automatic text analysis technologies contributes only to a partial solution of the problem, but allows us to measure the tension in society in respect of current urgent issues. There are 2 main approaches to language assessment. The first is based on lexicons, the second on the use of machine learning methods. Language assessment of the text using machine learning methods involves its processing through a preliminary analysis of the collection of texts with predetermined estimates of the tonality of words and expressions, requirements for the information system, the work of which is based on a model that promotes learning as exemplified by the form text corpus have been developed. Computer assessment of the text tonality is established experimentally being marked by operators, which is then used as a uniform standard in sentiment analysis. This approach is characterized by several aspects that are both correct and not exactly correct because it doesn't always give accurate results of language assessment. The functionality of the system allows distinguishing the use of neutral vocabulary, including tolerant statements, lexical units to indicate the difference from the standard, neutral ethnic expressions, and sentimentally loaded concepts. Such linguistic evaluation can be strengthened by introducing special attributes for words. Good can be used as a positive and whose particle acquires a negative tonality, or words that diminish positive semantics. Evaluative stereotype, a standard norm sample, as an element of language assessment is clearly traced in the text of analyzed materials, which is in an expression of comparison, good or best, such as passerby in Lviv, Rome, Roma special forces soldiers, Roma woman passerby, mayor Roma, Roma a woman from Lviv. Roma law enforcement officials, Roma people, residents, local authorities, Roma, rural population, Roma. On the one hand, we have good characters, a passerby, a man, woman from Lviv, a resident, rural population, law enforcement officials, special forces soldiers, people, because according to established stereotypes, they have a positive connotation. On the other hand, there are bad characters, the Roma people. The description of the people involved is based on various criteria: the nationality of one party Roma, and the place of residence, Lviv resident, passerby, a woman from Lviv, rural population, position, special forces, mayor, law enforcement officials of the other party, although no one indicated which nationality these people belong to, which is an expression of the opposition us and them. The selection of verbs attacked, beat, robbed, killed, etc., indicates a rational assessment of the authors of the material. The results, here we have contextual use of the word. This is gypsies. So another challenge for the researchers in the process of developing software for sentiment analysis is to take into account the order of words, expressions, and sentences in the text and their impact on the overall tonality. Such an obstacle arises when a positive assessment of certain aspects is expressed, but the general subjective impression of the object is negative. To track the inappropriate use of the ethnic group name, in particular as exemplified by the term gypsies, concordance program or corpus managers may be used. Let us consider the possibility of tracking the frequency of use of the word gypsy, which is offensive to Roma, with the help of the AntCon corpus manager. For example, in a small material posted on the official website of the Katerinople Rayon State Administration and Rayon Council entitled 10 Little Known Facts About the Gypsies, 2020, it is used 21 times. This software product allows not only searching and counting various elements of the text, but also analyzing their frequency and context of the use of word forms, word combinations, and morphemes. Use of this tool will help to pre-moderate journalistic materials in terms of discriminatory, insulting statements, as well as hate speech against members of ethnic communities, and to monitor compliance with journalistic standards in media content. Results discussions. Although tolerance and non-discrimination of people and groups to which they belong on the basis of racial, ethnic, or other differences is fairly well regulated by laws, according to various surveys, the problem really exists, and modern media contribute to its spread and support as well. It is necessary to draw boundary lines between freedom of expression, hate speech, and the right to non-discrimination. Hate speech against the representatives of national and ethnic groups may be defined as statements, photos, or images of a negative nature towards a person, a representative of a certain national or ethnic community, or a group as a whole, based on stereotypes and promoting, deepening, or supporting intolerance of the society. That is, the concept includes four elements: statements, photos or images of a negative nature, a person belonging to a certain nation or ethnic group, or the whole nation, ethnic group, promoting, deepening, or supporting intolerance towards this group based on stereotypes. The following factors may be considered to be the biggest problems in hate speech against the members of national or ethnic groups. Generalization, when the wrongdoings of one person are transferred to the whole group, increasing hostility and unenabling behavior, deepening historical inter-ethnic trauma, calling for action by non-legal means. As long as stereotyping is focused on humor level rather than direct discrimination, it can be assumed that the impact on a person's perception of a particular social group is minimal. For example, the Americans are friendly stereotype will not negatively affect the group's perception. On the contrary, somebody may copy such behavior, but the Roma are thieves stereotype indicates that everyone needs to be careful with them. The problem of soft hate speech is insufficiently researched, but its role cannot be overestimated, as the constant reproduction of such messages forms the foundation of harsh hate speech in the society, which can provoke even physical impact on the members of a certain social group, in particular the Roma. Conclusion. Language stereotypes about the Roma people are present in the Ukrainian media space and are most frequently expressed through the evaluative stereotype, which is an expression of comparison, good or bad, the functioning of established phraseological units that support stereotypes about the Roma people that exist in society. The following violations, being a sign of hate speech in the studied materials on Roma, may be singled out: unjustified mention of nationality in the headlines and text of articles in 12 of 13 studied. The materials about the life of Roma people are exclusively criminal in nature. Generalizations, all Roma are criminals. The choice of words and topics support a negative hostile attitude towards members of ethnic community. Division and emphasis on the status of us and them. Passerby in Lviv, Roma special forces soldiers, Roma woman, passerby, mayor Roma, a woman from Lviv, Roma law enforcement officials, Roma people, inhabitants, local authorities, Roma, rural population, Roma. Computer assessment of the text tonality is established experimentally, being marked by operators, which is then used as a uniform standard in sentiment analysis. This approach is characterized by several aspects that are both correct and not exactly correct because it does not always give accurate results of language assessment. One of the most significant shortcomings of the analysis of the text language assessment using machine learning methods is the probability of conflicts and differences in the assessment of the tonality of text on various topics. Under such conditions, the program may incorrectly monitor the language assessment of certain elements, as the procedure involves the formation of a comprehensive assessment, which can often be inappropriate under the analyzed context. It should be noted that machine learning methods do not allow the creation of databases that would take into account the features of language assessment, which are of high significance in the overall tonality of the whole text. The operation of the proposed information system is based on the use of dictionaries and lexicons, from which certain concepts are extracted, taking into account their tonality assessment. However, dictionaries whose rules are still created manually. The first step in developing the program was to create a list of expressions and determine their tonality. Then the message is processed. The words and phrases that characterize concepts or phenomena in a synonymic row are extracted. Using language assessment, weight coefficients are assigned and registered in the created dictionary. The intensity of the language aggression present in the text of the message is calculated at the arithmetic average for the studied text. However, it is impossible to teach the program how to distinguish these nuances as they have to be analyzed in different ways. That is why databases or text corpus are created based on the published material to accumulate a sufficient number of contextual examples. Using the capabilities of the concordance program and the nconc corpus manager will help to pre-moderate journalistic materials in terms of discriminatory, insulting statements, as well as hate speech against members of ethnic communities, and to monitor compliance with journalistic standards in media content. Thanks for your attention.